Welcome to the September 27th, 2021 Troy City Council meeting. This evening, we're honored to have Ed Chezik from the Troy Interfaith Group and also Shirtikva to provide the invocation for this evening's meeting. So please rise for the invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Inema tov u'ma'nayim shevet akim gam yachad. With excitement, we see brothers and sisters standing together, unified as a single people. God of Abraham, God of Yitzhak, God of Yaakov, blessed are you and blessed be your holy name. We have gathered here tonight to help plan the course that our community shall follow for the future and for the betterment of the citizens of Troy, Michigan. As we gather understanding and agreement, may we strive to only present those ideas rooted in the intention of elevating our community. May the aspect of our eyes be rooted in the passion to elevate our community where brotherly love and equality blossoms like flowers in spring. May this body of elected officials enact laws and resolutions that lift up all those who are bent low with a gentle breeze of tender affections, allowing them to stand upright before you and with open hearts committed to the most noblest of hopes and desires. Holy One, we ask you to bring comfort to those who have lost family and friends to the COVID pandemic. Strengthen our arms and resolve that we may help them carry the burden of their pain. That one day in the near future, we shall harvest together the fruits of the blessings by the work done tonight by the City Council in the city of Troy. Amen.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Ed. Welcome to the September 27th, 2021 Troy City Council meeting. We'll officially call the meeting to order and ask for the roll call. Ms. Dixon.
Mayor Baker?
Here.
Councilmember Abraham?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Brooks?
Here.
Councilmember Chamberlain Krenga?
Here.
Councilmember Erickson Gall?
Here.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Here.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Here.
All present this evening. First up on the agenda are certificates of recognition and special presentations. We have several this evening. But first up is C1, a legislative update, and we have a twofer this evening, Senator Mallory McMorrow and also Representative Padma Kupa. So please welcome.
I don't have it.
I'm looking forward to this dance routine.
Hopefully you can hear with Mass. If you can't, let us know. We are very pleased, Mr. Mayor, members of council, to be here together this evening to provide an update on the budget process. So first of all, I want to thank everybody in the community, frankly, all members of council, the mayor, for just continuing to advocate on the issue of noise along I-75. We know that this has been a growing concern. Both the representative and myself have fielded emails and phone calls, not only from council, but residents who are concerned. And, I think fundamentally what we all believe is, as we think about improving our infrastructure and ensuring that people can get to where they want to go, that we're always cognizant of quality of life, particularly when it's through our communities. So this has been a joint effort and a 3-year process, and working through budgets and state departments is a real challenge. So wanted to provide a little bit of an update, and Representative, if you want to talk about some of the constituent services work we've done to get to this point.
Sure. It started out with attending coffee hours with a lot of people who came to me with these issues back in 2019, following it up with wherever there was a meeting about the I-75 expansion, showing up there, learning ways that residents can make their voices heard, making sure that I also spoke up and that Senator McMorrow and I were at the front line speaking on this. We actually met, my office, my staff and I met with a particular subdivision last fall and brought MDOT into that meeting. We had additional meetings. I know that Manager Mark Miller, as well as some of my staff and some of the council folks all met with people from MDOT as well as from the governor's office. Everyone is aware of how important this is for all of us here in Troy, and those of us representing you. I'm not going to speak too much about the budget. Just know, because I've been here twice in the last two meetings, I've been here and taken up a lot of time at the podium. I do want to say, though, it is really a pleasure to work alongside Senator McMorrow, who also values education, both higher education as well as K-12. This is one of the best years for higher ed funding as well. I know that one of the things that she brought up when she and I have talked is about the debt that our students face, crippling debt, and we hopefully have given the university something so that, we are making inroads on that particular issue. As you obviously know, K-12 is another big one for people here in Troy, as well as revenue sharing, and so I'll give her the opportunity to speak and tell the actual numbers.
All right, so following up on the community meetings, I returned from maternity leave back to my office, and I know the representative, as she mentioned, hosted many meetings, so we re-engaged on this issue, and were brought up to speed, and when we went back to MDOT and expressed concerns about the fact that residents were incredibly concerned that post-construction, not pre-construction, that there was elevated noise, particularly for one subdivision in a community that was just a constant irritation to the point where quality of life was seriously diminished. And when we had these conversations with MDOT, they did confirm with us that studies were not done post-construction, but ran us through, between federal guidelines, state guidelines. The state itself does not have a sound wall program itself that we could apply for, so we would have to go through federal guidelines. And when it came down to it, Michigan, to put this into context, spends less per capita on infrastructure than any other state in the Midwest. So when we went back and said, residents are concerned, is it possible to get a post-construction sound study to confirm what residents are concerned about? The answer was, we simply don't have the funds. So we asked MDOT to let us know what this would cost and let them know that we intended to pursue the legislative solution. Now, trying to get things into the budget process is always a challenge, but we made the ask. This was one of our top priorities on our request list this year, and all of that work kind of making sure that every department, the administration knew about this issue. We were able to make it happen. So we secured the funding for a post-construction sound study, and while I know that a study is not a wall, it is certainly a step in the right direction after 3 years of work that we've had in the office and all of the work from the community. So what this is going to prove is, the process of the budget right now, it has passed through the Senate and the House. It is on its way to the governor's desk for a signature. Once the signature is on the budget and those funds are secured, we will follow up with MDOT to get timing and what that's going to look like, when we could expect this to be facilitated and when we could know. And then from there, we will have finally some closure on whether or not the community qualifies for the sound wall under the federal guidelines, and so that we can pursue that through MDOT with our federal partners and ensure that it is funded. So we will keep everybody posted on that progress. I know things in state government move slower than we would like, but we will make sure that we are on top of MDOT. We have a really good relationship with their legislative affairs department, and they were really wonderful with us. Once we did say, we know that you're strapped for funding, we want to try to get it in the budget, they immediately got with their contractors who were approved to work on federal projects to make sure that we had an accurate number and that the study would be validated. With that, I would love to open it up if there are any questions. I do have additional bullet points. Representative has the entire budget with her if we want to get into details.
Only the higher ed. I did not bring
Higher ed.
179 pages of general.
There's a lot of budget, but I did want to point out a few of the highlights because I am really, really proud, and I've said this throughout my entire time in the legislature, that even as divided as it seems we are politically, we have always come together in a bipartisan fashion on the budget, and I'm really, really proud of the budget that passed. This year, we still have over $7 billion in federal dollars yet to allocate, which we will go back to work on through the remainder of the year from the American Rescue Plan dollars. But some other highlights include $196 million in the budget for local bridge bundling to allow MDOT to bundle these projects together to save funds and get over 100 crumbling bridges into better condition so they're safe for us to drive. There's a statutory revenue sharing 2% increase, which is fantastic, something that we have always been advocating for, is more of those funds coming back to our local communities. And increases in childcare. This was a record budget for funding for childcare, increasing the number of families who will be eligible for childcare subsidies. There will be 150,000 new children who will be eligible for these programs, which is what we've heard as we are talking to businesses about the labor shortage and talking to parents. Parents are afraid to go back to work because they do not have access to childcare. And while schools are back, and we are thrilled about that, I think a lot of parents are looking at it kind of tenuously this fall and hoping that everybody stays safe and we can stay in school, but that is going to be a huge help. There's a $24.7 million increase to direct care worker wages, so we're supporting not only childcare, but the direct care workers themselves. And yeah, so open to any questions, concerns, comments, or anything that we can do in our office to continue advocating.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you, Representative. I'm going to start not with a question, but just a comment and a show of gratitude. Thank you both very much for, I know we're only at the early stages of what could hopefully turn into something to solve some of the sound issues for our residents, but we finally have some progress and something that the residents can see that there is something that is potentially going to be done. And that comes from both of you working on behalf of these residents at the state government level. As you know, we've been saying to you all along, we can't do anything, we need your help. And you've answered that call, both of you. So thank you for taking this step and getting this into that budget. I think it's a very good step. And I know residents who are watching tonight who are acutely aware of this issue are anxious to hear those next steps and to see, and I'm glad to hear in your update what the plan is, basically. Let's get the budget signed by the governor, and then you'll go to MDOT and get more information. But thank you both. Not a question, just a statement of gratitude. Questions for either or both? Councilmember Ann Erickson-Gold.
Thank you, Mayor. Not really a question, just thank you so much for working on increasing revenue sharing. It's the kind of boring thing that most people don't pay attention to, but you know and we know that that's going to make a big difference for our community. It's dollars that we can spend right here to make our streets better, to improve our public safety, improve our parks. It'll go a long way, so thank you so much for working on that.
I want to just add, MML, Michigan Municipal League, has been doing a lot of work with all the cities, villages, and townships, as well as with the Michigan Association of Counties and the Michigan Township Association, and has advice and has given us some feedback today on what is going on and what we can do to help local municipalities as they figure this out. One of the things I brought up with them is that City of Troy is extremely fiscally responsible, and we set a standard. How do we, as a state, and how does MML help some of those other cities so that they don't waste their dollars and they use them wisely and in a manner that we all do here? And I think that's really an important aspect of, as people have funds, making sure that the projects that are important, for example, right now in Benton Harbor, the last 3 years, their lead pipes have caused poisoning, and so we really need to address those kinds of things around the state. We do not need to be known for another Flint.
Thank you. Additional questions, comments? No? Bunch of people looking around. All right, well, thank you both. We do know how to find you. You want to give the residents one more reminder of best ways to contact you both?
Padma Kupa at house.mi.gov, 517-373-1783. Also, kupa.housedems.com. I want to ask, does anybody want my copy of the higher ed budget? Or do you want it electronically? Because I can send it to,
How about electronically?
Okay,
All right.
I will do that.
Thank you.
And our office, if you go to senatormcmorrow.com, you can find the phone number, email, and one thing that we actually started doing at the beginning of the pandemic that has just turned into an excellent way to connect with people is every Friday at 1 p.m. I do a live streamed virtual coffee hour that streams across Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. During our peak, we had more than 1,000 people tuning in live, so we've reached far more people than we ever have at public events, where we provide just a weekly update on what's happening in the state, in the legislature, and we always share good news from our local community. So we would ask as well, if there is good news from Troy to share, please send it to us so we can share it with our greater community.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Next up, I have some proclamations to present, so I'm going to head down to the podium. First up is C2. It's a proclamation for Hispanic Heritage Month, and we're very excited this evening to have from the Consulate General of Mexico's office, the Consul Brenda Garcia Resendiz. She's also a Troy resident, so please come on up, and I'd like to present this proclamation to you and read it into the record. Thank you for coming. Gracias por venir. All right, again, this is a proclamation to celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month, September 2021. So whereas Michigan's Hispanic and Latino population has grown from 2010 to 2020, according to preliminary figures from the Census Bureau, figures from the 2020 census show that 564,422 Hispanic and Latino residents in Michigan make up 5.6% of the state's population, up from 4.4% in 2010. And Troy's population is 3.4%, up from 2.1% in 2010. And whereas with over 60 million Hispanic Americans residing in the United States, Hispanic Americans make up the largest minority group in the nation and have significantly contributed to our government, culture, and economy over generations. And whereas the Hispanic community in America has made many important advances in areas of law, religion, agriculture, art, music, education, technology, architecture, cuisine, theater, and exploration, Hispanic Americans have provided Michigan and the United States with unique social and cultural influences, fundamentally enriching the extraordinary character of our state and our nation. And whereas Michigan is fortunate to count among its population a large number of residents of Spanish and Latin American descent who grow businesses, offer innovative ideas, strengthen our economy, create jobs, and contribute to our daily lives. And whereas during this month, Michigan's Hispanic American community will celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month through a series of special events featuring Hispanic history, food, dance, and art, celebrating the rich tradition and many contributions this community has made to our community and beyond. We appreciate and honor the countless achievements of Hispanic Americans and continue our efforts to ensure our community is a welcoming and inclusive place that provides just and equal opportunities for all. And whereas the theme for Hispanic Heritage Month, Esperanza, a celebration of Hispanic heritage and hope, invites us to celebrate Hispanic heritage and to reflect on how great our tomorrow can be if we hold on to our resilience and hope. It encourages everyone to reflect on all of the contributions Hispanics have made in the past and will continue to make into the future. So now, therefore, be it resolved that the Mayor and City Council of the City of Troy hereby proclaim the month of September 2021 as Hispanic Heritage Month, and be it further resolved that we invite all Troy residents to recognize and celebrate the vital role our Hispanic and Latino population have played in our nation's history, as well as their outstanding achievements today and into the future. We applaud our own Troy residents and business owners and celebrate their contributions to our community and beyond. This proclamation is presented this 27th day of September 2021, signed by myself as the mayor, and all members of City Council have signed it. We thank you for coming into our City Hall tonight and accepting this, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Muchas gracias.
Hey, let's scoot over here a little bit.
Just briefly, thank you very much, Mayor Baker, and thank you to the Troy City Council. We really appreciate this opportunity, and on behalf of the Mexican Consulate, we appreciate your willingness and all these efforts you do to make the city of Troy an inclusive and very welcoming city to every person here, to give them equal opportunities in each chance they have. So thank you very much for this chance, and let's celebrate the Hispanic Heritage Month. Thank you.
Next up is C3, a proclamation regarding Welcoming Week, and I'd love to have Lisa Bika-Gradsky from our Global Troy Advisory Committee to come up and join me while I read this into the record. All right. Hi, Lisa.
Hi, how are you?
Very good. Again, this is a proclamation to celebrate Welcoming Week, which was actually September 10th through the 19th, 2021. Whereas the city of Troy has long considered itself a city of immigrants and thrives to be a welcoming and inclusive municipality for all residents to live, work, learn, and play. And whereas the city of Troy recognizes how immigrants and refugees contribute to a strong regional economy and a diverse, vibrant community. And whereas, according to the U.S. Census Bureau, Troy is a city with the second largest percentage of foreign-born residents in Metro Detroit. The city of Troy is proud of our many immigrants who call this community home and appreciate their valuable contributions in building and enriching our nation. And whereas the city of Troy recognizes the contribution of all individuals to create a vibrant culture, future-ready workforce, and a growing economy to make Oakland County and the Southeast Michigan region more prosperous and more inclusive for all who call it home. And whereas the 2021 theme for Welcoming Week is Belonging Begins With Us, to remind everyone that we all have the power to make others feel safe and welcome in our communities. We encourage our community members to help us all build more meaningful connections in our neighborhoods, cities, and towns, regardless of background or country of origin. And whereas the city of Troy recognizes September 10 to the 19th, 2021 as Welcoming Week, a nationwide call for all to come together celebrating and leveraging our differences, and to build a vibrant and connected community where every resident has the opportunity to contribute, thrive, and have a sense of belonging, regardless of immigration status, race, ethnicity, place or origin, gender, sexual orientation, religion, income, age, or other factors. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the City Council of the City of Troy does hereby proclaim September 10 to the 19th, 2021 as Welcoming Week in the City of Troy, and urges all citizens to join us in recognizing this week to celebrate our differences. And be it further resolved that the City Council urges all government agencies, organizations, schools, places of worship, and individuals in our city commemorating Welcoming Week as a time to come together to celebrate the wonderful things that each of our different cultures and backgrounds bring to the community. The City of Troy is pleased to join the celebration with other communities all over America. Again, this proclamation is presented this 27th day of September 2021, signed by myself as the mayor with all members of City Council. Lisa is a representative of Global Troy Advisory Committee and also somebody who just did a bang-up job organizing our International Day entertainment event at Troy Family Days. I present this proclamation to you and thank you for all your service to the city.
Thank you.
Good evening, and thank you, Mayor Baker. Thank you, Troy City Council. I wanted to thank the City of Troy for continuing our membership to the Welcoming America. As part of Global Troy Advisory Committee, I'd like to give a shout out to my colleague on Global Troy, Naz Mohiddin, and the other 10 that sit on our committee. We did, in fact, organize a fun day on the last day of Welcoming Week at the Troy Family Days. We organized 12 different performing acts during International Day in the entertainment tent. There were over 160 performers highlighting different cultures and ethnicities that represent the city of Troy. So I'd like to also thank the Troy Family Days Committee for giving us an outlet, Global Troy, the city of Troy, and the Troy Family Days for giving us that outlet of International Day. And this was our successful 4th year of putting on International Day. Hope it continues. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lisa. Next up is C4. It's a proclamation to recognize Childhood Cancer Awareness Month. And I'm honored to have Dr. Charles Main and Nurse Lisa Muma to come up and join me for the proclamation. It's good to see them, but it's a terribly sad reason to see you. But it's important to have the awareness, so I'm happy to read this proclamation and present it. So again, this is a proclamation for Childhood Cancer Awareness Month, September 2021. Whereas childhood cancer is the #1 cause of death from disease among children. Every day, 43 children in the United States are diagnosed with cancer, and the average age of diagnosis is 6 years old. 1 in 285 children will be diagnosed with cancer before the age of 20, and every year, an estimated 250,000 plus new cases of cancer affect children under the age of 20 worldwide. That's almost 700 new kids affected every day. Childhood cancer is the leading cause of death by disease in children under the age of 19 in the United States. And whereas 1 in every 1,000 18-year-olds in the United States is a survivor of childhood cancer, as a result of overall cure rates that have risen to more than 80% over the past 40 years. Only 4% of federal government cancer research funding goes to childhood cancer research. And whereas lifelong follow-up care is recommended for all childhood cancer survivors due to the possibility of late side effects associated with treatment, and whereas the impact of a childhood cancer diagnosis produces multiple challenges to a family, children and their families need and deserve the full support of their communities while undergoing treatment. And whereas survival rates for pediatric cancers have improved dramatically over the past 50 years, today, innovative treatments such as proton therapy and molecularly targeted therapy give doctors even more tools to fight and win the battle against childhood cancers, while working to reduce side effects from treatments. And whereas proton therapy can be especially beneficial for young cancer patients who are most vulnerable to side effects of traditional radiation therapy, Beaumont Hospital Royal Oak is the first hospital in Michigan treating pediatric patients with proton technology. And whereas our community has the opportunity to make a significant impact on the lives of children currently being treated for cancer, childhood cancer survivors, and their families. Thankfully, our residents continue to take part in a number of activities to raise awareness about pediatric cancers. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the City Council of the City of Troy hereby proclaims September 2021 as Childhood Cancer Awareness Month in the City of Troy, and joins with Beaumont Children's to honor all childhood cancer survivors for their strength and determination. And be it further resolved that the City Council of the City of Troy applaud the dedicated doctors, nurses, and staff at Beaumont Children's who dedicate their lives caring for children affected by cancer, and thank them for close to 50 years of helping children fight cancer. It's presented this 27th day of September 2021, signed by myself as the mayor and all members of City Council. We know you've received it before, but we're happy to keep the awareness alive here in the City of Troy. So thank you.
Mayor Baker and council members and citizens of Troy, thank you very much for this. I have had the privilege and responsibility of caring for children with cancer at Beaumont and Royal Oak since 1968. And in that time, as the mayor mentioned, I have seen the survival rate for childhood leukemia, which is the most common type of cancer, go from 5% to close to 90% now. So we have initiated 30 years ago, with the help of many of the citizens of Troy, a college scholarship program for our cancer survivors. We have had over 200 of our cancer survivors go on to college. This year we have over 30 in college, and I'm proud to say that 4 of them are in medical school. So, because what they've gone through, many of them suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder, survivor's guilt, and we want to get them on the right track because they want to give back. And again, thank you, Mayor. Thank you all. Appreciate it. And on behalf of not only the doctors and nurses and mothers and children at Beaumont, but at all the other major childhood cancer treatment centers in the state of Michigan, we are fortunate that we have some great, great pediatric oncologists in the state of Michigan. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Again, thank you both for coming. We have one more proclamation, but first I have to do a vote on resolution to waive the rules of procedure for the City Council, Rule Number 8, Proclamations and Congratulatory Certificates. So I will resolve that the Troy City Council hereby waives the rule of procedure for the City Council Rule Number 8, Proclamations and Congratulatory Certificates, to approve and present a proclamation to declare September 2021 as National Kinship Care Month in the City of Troy on September 27, 2021.
Support.
It's even harder to hear from up here. I'm going to pick, let's see, moved by the chair, supported by Mayor Pro Tem Brooks, that we approve that motion as read into the record. Any discussion? All right, the vote, Ms. Dixon?
Mayor Baker,
Yes.
Councilmember Abraham,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Brooks.
Yes.
Councilmember Chamberlain Craig.
Yes.
Councilmember Erickson Galt.
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton.
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. And I hope that's the last time I do a motion from down here. So that was very strange. All right, so C5 is the proclamation for Kinship Care Month. I'm very pleased to have the Miller family to join me up here today. Don and Lori, the grandparents, and Autumn and Connor, the grandchildren. So if you could come up here, and I'd love to read this proclamation into the record. Thank you all for coming. All right, so this is a proclamation to declare September 2021 as National Kinship Care Month in the city of Troy. Whereas celebrated in September, National Kinship Care Month recognizes and celebrates the grandparents, aunts, uncles, relatives, and non-relatives who care for children when they cannot safely remain with their parents. And whereas when children are unable to live with their parents, it is critical that they live with someone they know and trust. This helps to create a sense of security, community, and cultural identity and can reduce the trauma of being removed from their home. And whereas kinship care refers to circumstances where grandparents, extended family members, and other adults with family-like relationships with children take on the primary caregiving role when biological parents are unable to do so. And whereas, unfortunately, not all children who are removed from their parents have an opportunity to live with their kin. National Kinship Care Month is a reminder of the important work of keeping children connected to their kin. Additionally, it is a great time to thank the caregivers who are supporting children both inside and outside of the child welfare system. And whereas grandparents raising grandchildren and other family members serving as the child's primary source of love, identity, self-esteem, and support is the stable foundation of our community when birth parents are absent. Whereas according to Generations United, there are more than 66,000 grandparents and kinship caregivers in Michigan. And according to statistics from the Area Agency on Aging 1B, there are 5,727 grandparents raising grandchildren here in Oakland County. And now, therefore, be it resolved that the City Council of the City of Troy hereby recognizes September 2021 as National Kinship Care Month, because nothing is more precious than the growth and development of our children, and every young person deserves a safe, loving, and stable home. And be it further resolved that the City Council of the City of Troy joins with Oakland Livingston Human Service Agency, the only service provider in our area with resources for kinship caregivers, and calls upon our citizens, public and private institutions, businesses, and schools to recognize the grandparents and other family members stepping up to care for children when they cannot safely remain with their parents. This proclamation is presented this 27th day of September 2021, again signed by myself as the mayor, all members of City Council. I present it to you both as loving grandparents and grandchildren. I thank you for coming tonight. It's a little bit probably different than what you're used to, but we appreciate it, and we do want to recognize the value, of course, what you're doing for our community as well.
We thank you for this proclamation. It's amazing. You do not realize what it takes when you're done raising children to start doing it again. And all these organizations and other grandparents and families raising children, everybody is so helpful to each other, and we're all there for each other. And so many organizations, you don't realize how many people are out there that are willing to give and willing to help. And we really appreciate everything that we've gotten. And thank you for this.
Need a quick drink of water, sorry. All right, that concludes special presentations and proclamations this evening. There are no carryover items, so we move on to public hearings. We have two this evening. E1 is Troy Crossing Planned Unit Development, file number PUD JPLN 2021-0008, proposed amendments to Troy Crossing PUD, north side of Big Beaver, east of John R., parcels 88-20-24-352-067 and 068, Section 24, currently zoned PUD 8, Planned Unit Development 8 District, and that'll be introduced by our Community Development Director, Brent Savadon. Good evening, Brent.
Good evening, Mayor Baker, City Council. Bob, could you dim the far lights? I think it would make it easier for the audience to see. Yeah, that's much better. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Baker. We try to add a small educational component for some of these applications when necessary. The planned unit developments do not come before City Council very often, so just a really quick one-slide primer here. What is a planned unit development? Well, sometimes people refer to planned unit developments as PUDs, planned unit developments. They're basically, I'm going to have a hard time breathing there. The PUDs are a negotiated process which permit flexibility in design and in use. The zoning ordinance lists a number of reasons why we contemplate these types of applications. There are some on this slide. They permit development patterns which respond to changing public and private needs, which is the case for this development this evening. They encourage flexibility in design. They provide for enhanced housing, employment, recreation, and shopping opportunities, and they ensure compatibility with neighboring properties, among other reasons. Those are some of the main ones. Every community is different. The way that Troy processes PUDs, it's actually a rezoning process. Some communities deal with them as special uses, but we deal with them as zoning districts. And when they're approved, each PUD is controlled by a site plan and a PUD agreement. So this has an existing site plan and a PUD agreement, and they're before us this evening to seek an amendment to those two documents. So the site, you've probably all seen it. It's really come along, really progressed since it was approved in 2017. It's located on the north side of Big Beaver, east of John R. It's also known as the Phoenix Troy Apartments. And you see the zoning there on the screen. It's PUD number 8. It was approved in 2017. Now, when it was approved in 2017, it involved 4 3-story apartment buildings totaling 108 units, and they proposed 2 retail/restaurant facilities in the frontage along Big Beaver, totaling approximately 10,000 square feet in area, and a small community center. Now, if the community center is here, it's reserved for the tenants of the complex, but it was part of the approved development, and it has been constructed. All 4 of the buildings have been constructed, and they're looking to close out this project. Now, because of market conditions, and Mr. Nager, the applicant, is here this evening, and he spoke at length about some of the challenges that he's had to face because of COVID and other challenges. But they're seeking to amend the approved PUD, and what he'd like to do is convert the 2 approved 1-story commercial buildings, shown as number 5 there, into 1 building, and that would be another 3-story building consisting of 25 residential units and 2,000 square feet of restaurant retail on the first floor. And I would note that there's sufficient parking to accommodate this. So this handy-dandy table summarizes the differences between the approved PUD and what's proposed. So the total number of units is proposed to go from 108 to 133. Retail is proposed to drop from 10,000 square feet to 2,000 square feet. And instead of 4 residential buildings and 2 commercial buildings, there'd be 5 residential buildings. That would include a small retail component. In terms of renderings, this is the west elevation, the entrance off Big Beaver. Notice the retail component here with lots of glass and a patio area outside. That was the west elevation. This is the east elevation. So again, on Big Beaver, as one is driving along Big Beaver westward, this is what one would see. And the buildings are consistent with what have been constructed there now in terms of design. If you've been to the site recently, they're very attractive buildings. The Planning Commission had a public hearing on this item on August 24th, and they recommended approval 8-0. I would note that the resolution that was approved had this statement here. The Planning Commission, this is not binding, but it did encourage the applicant to enhance landscaping, to consider moving the retail restaurant space to the east side of the building, and to encourage the applicant to increase the amount of retail and restaurant space on the ground floor to up to 4,000 square feet. The applicant has not revised the application. This is the same application that went before the Planning Commission. And I can answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Brent. Any questions from council? Will there be any presentation from the applicant this evening?
I don't.
Just here for any questions if necessary, right?
Mr. Nader's here, yeah, if
Okay.
any questions.
Just curious. Well, let me open the public hearing. I don't see anybody has signed up for E1 specifically to speak on this issue. Is there anyone in the audience here that would like to speak on E1? All right, well, then I will close the public hearing. And I will ask if someone would like to move the resolution. Councilmember Erickson Galt.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move E1, Troy Crossing Plan Unit Development, file number PUD JPLN 2021-008, proposed amendments to Troy Crossing PUD, north side of Big Beaver, east of John R., parcels 88-20-24-352-067 and -068. Section 24, currently zoned PUD 8, Plan Unit Development 8, District, as printed in the agenda.
Support.
Moved by Councilmember Erickson Galt, supported by Councilmember Hoderick, that we approve E1, Troy Crossing Planned Unit Development, file number PUD JPLN 2021-0008, proposed amendment to Troy Crossing PUD, north side of Big Beaver, east of John R., parcels 88-20-24-352-067 and 068, section 24, currently zoned PUD 8, Planned Unit Development 8, District, as printed in the agenda packet. Any discussion? I will just say that I've been around that area, driven through there a little bit. What you've done is really nice, and I think it's nice to see actual housing up on Big Beaver, and it looks like a very appropriate use of this space for me. So I'm glad I approved in 2017, and it's good to see it come to fruition in a good way. So thank you for the quality work. The vote, Ms. Dixon.
Councilmember Abraham?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Brooks?
Yes.
Councilmember Chamberlain Crainga?
Yes.
Councilmember Erickson Galt?
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Mayor Baker?
Yes, motion carries. Thank you. Next up is E2. It's a conditional rezoning CRJPLN 2021-001, proposed Pineview Condominiums, west side of DeQuinder, north of Long Lake, parcel 88-20-12-476-070, section 12 from NN Neighborhood Node J and EP Environmental Protection to NN Neighborhood Node J. The applicant has asked that we pull this from the agenda this evening and have it sent back to the Planning Commission. But we have noticed a public hearing, and there are people who are here to speak. So I'm going to open the public hearing, and we will keep it open pending future action on this item. But there are a handful of people who have signed up. So first up is Paul Ballas. As a reminder, you have 3 minutes for public comment. When the yellow light turns on, that means you have a minute left, and when the red light comes on, that means time is up.
Great, thank you very much.
Welcome, thank you.
I guess being pulled, it's like warming up for a game that's not going to happen right now.
It will happen at some point, so we know.
So my name is Paul Bayless. I'm a 40-year resident of Troy. I live in the Woodlands of Troy subdivision. I'm speaking as a result of the similarities of this situation with the one relating to the Crooks townhomes that were rejected both at the Planning Commission and by this body several months ago. First issue relates to the rezoning request itself. We believe the rezoning request should be denied because the design does not meet the zoning ordinance as follows. This is a neighborhood node where the site development is indicated that will be smaller scale. If you look at the pictures of this proposed development, it is not smaller scale. It's approximately 25 units on approximately 2 acres of land. The proposed development is made up of Form C townhomes, which are 3 stories. Form C townhomes are not intended for this non-urban location according to the planning guidance. Form C townhomes are also not transitional, and 3-story buildings are not transitional to the surrounding residential single-story homes and businesses that are 1-story surrounding the proposed development. For 12 of the units, the primary entrances do not front on a street, yet the neighborhood node design standards require primary entrances to be on a street. For an additional 13 units, the driveways, access garages, which are shared with the primary entrance at the front of the units. Building Form Cs require that garage entrances be at the rear of the buildings. These are at the front of the buildings. The city consultant during the Planning Commission meeting indicated that the height would be 2.5 stories, yet the plan clearly, unless I'm missing my math, shows that these are 3-story buildings. Issue number 2, and this is a bit of an objective comment. Our second comment relates to interactions between the city's planning consultant and members of the Planning Commission. I've attended or watched replays of several Planning Commission meetings, and the city's planning consultant seems eager to dismiss additional discussion by planning committee members by indicating that something is a by right development, which is meant to be something that by right the developer has the ability to do, yet ignores that even in by right developments, they must be compliant with design and other standards, and that there are additional areas where the Planning Commission should have input in these situations. We respectfully request that the Council, 1, deny the rezoning request based upon the facts provided, and 2, consider whether there is any action or additional guidance that should be given relative to the services of the city's planning consultant. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Bayless. Next up is Susan Neely.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'd just like to continue with what Paul was mentioning. The site at Long Lake and DeQuinder is in neighborhood node J. It's a type B node that the zoning ordinance describes as transitional smaller scale, employment-based mixed use. The proposed buildings are incorrectly stated in the review by the planning consultant, Mr. Ben Carlisle of Carlisle, Wharton and Associates, as 2.5 stories, as the applicant is conditioning on them being able to construct 3-story townhouses. Townhomes are building Form C, which states in the article, building Form C. This category is primarily designed for attached residential or live work residential units. Townhouses and urban style residential developments that are compatible with highly density urban character are the primary buildings permitted under this building form. The subject property is not surrounded by a higher density urban character neighborhood, as the adjacent properties are single family homes, ranch homes on the west and north, a single-story Taco Bell on the east that will share its only access driveway with this development, and 2 single-story businesses on the south. Urban character is what you would find in a higher density area like Big Beaver at Crooks and are depicted on page 84 of the master plan. As a result, this building form should not be allowed for this site. The Troy master plan described on page 67, transitional density. The missing middle market offers an opportunity to create housing at densities which fall between transitional single family and multiple family. Mr. Carlo correctly points out on page 9 of his report, section 8.06, outlines site plan review design standards, which include that development shall ensure capability to existing commercial districts and provide a transitional between land uses. This isn't transitioning from a more intensive use, as the commercial buildings are 1-story and the residents are single family 1-story. By putting 3-story townhouses compatible with highly density urban character in between single-story buildings, there is no transition. The design standards applicable to the all proposed development and neighborhood nodes provides in section 5.06 a primary entrance. The primary building entrance shall be clearly identified and usable and located in the front parallel to the street. To understand how this would work, either the proposed building has to have its primary entrance on the street the property fronts on, or there must be an internal street. Looking at the examples in the master plan, all the illustrations have the buildings fronting on a street. Under the proposed plan, the primary entrance for 12 of the 25 units do not front on a street. The remaining 13 units have their entrance next to the garage, along with the assumed alley of the development. If building
Ms.
forms...
Neely, that's your 3 minutes.
I was trying to talk fast. Okay, thank you.
Appreciate it very much. Next up is Daniel Rabinger.
Thank you. Good evening. Referring to the consultant report regarding Pineview Condominiums, the consultant correctly states that the Planning Commission is charged with determining if the site plan and design standards have been met. This is true. However, in the report, instead of leaving the report to the facts, the report goes on to make the statement that it is solely for the Planning Commission to decide by stating, quote, we find that the design standards have been met, unquote, a statement that places undue pressure and misleads the Planning Commission. Further, if the Planning Commission decides if the standards have not been met, it contradicts their decision, and it's used in applicant appeals of their decisions. This is happening today. It was previously mentioned with Crooks Road Townhomes, and this is in fact what is happening already. The consultant reports misleads the Planning Commission and the City Council by stating that the proposed development has met the design standards. It does not meet the zoning requirements. As others have said, it is not smaller scale. Building Form C townhomes are not intended for this non-urban location. You'd have to look only to intersections such as Big Beaver and Crooks or Maple and Coolidge to see what a more urban setting would look like in the city of Troy. This is not the case here at Pineview Condominiums. We've talked about 3-story buildings instead of a single story, that there's lack of transition. But the most important point here is the proposal does not comply with the existing zoning ordinance regarding the driveway access adjacent to the garages. And this must be addressed in both the Pineview condominiums as well as future Crooks Road Townhomes proposals. Extra parking spaces are necessary if density is low enough. Variances to setback requirements are not needed if the density is low enough. So we ask that the council deny this request for rezoning and return it to the Planning Commission for further study.
Thank you, Mr. Rabinger. Appreciate it. Next up is Michael Lipinski.
Well, thank you. Since this has been moved, I think, back to the Planning Commission, I'm going to keep it short and just touch on point 2. I'm concerned about that second point, and I asked this group to use your oversight authority to look at the current processes that we have in place today and the interactions that we have between our Planning Commission, Planning Office, and Planning Consultant. I feel that there's not a very well-defined authority or lanes that folks are supposed to stay in and how those groups all interact together. You've heard tonight that there's some issues with this ruling, but there's also been several issues with several other. We've got a court case going on now where the city's party to, and several of the citizens of Troy are party to, and don't worry, I'm not going to discuss it at all, but I'm using it as a good example that's putting the city and citizens at risk for comments that were made by a consultant that are now being used as affirmative defenses in a plaintiff filing that, this was approved by the city consultant, or this was, the city consultant ordered the planning commission to vote affirmatively on this. And I just think we're charging a consultant with way too much authority. I don't know where this applied authority came from, but I think it should be looked at, and I think there should be a well-defined process. I hope that you're willing to take up this charge and try and, put the right lanes in place so that everybody can work together seamlessly. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Lipinski. Next up is Pamela Pruitt.
Good evening. So I live on the property abutting the green space north of DeQuinder. And all the points everyone brought up, I'm aware of, but I live there. I work from home right now, unfortunately, due to COVID. And I really want the council to address safety there, because I came here for the 24th Planning Commission meeting, and there was an accident the next day. So that entrance has one way in and out. Many nights, Taco Bell is lined up in front of my driveway. There's many times when I go somewhere that I have to go past my home and go down because cars are lined up in the center. So I really want you to look at the safety of this intersection, adding more homes, and we're looking at least one vehicle, probably two. I mean, you've got to redo the entrance. It's just not feasible. And also, the owner, the current property that he has, it's not maintained. There are dead trees. I've had to clean around the fire hydrant both winter and summer. It's never shoveled. The sidewalk is shoveled onto the fire hydrant. When the fire hydrant before DeQuinder, I've lived there since '79. And when DeQuinder used to be a smaller road, there was a ditch that I cleaned the fire hydrant out in the ditch. I shoveled it every winter, and he can't even mow it. So I'm just really concerned, but I really want you to address the safety to this, because that entrance is not feasible for that many homes. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pruitt. Appreciate that. That concludes those that have signed up for the public hearing this evening. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to speak on E2? All right. Public hearing will stay open because it's been noticed and we opened it, but this item will be sent back to the Planning Commission for future discussions. That concludes public hearings this evening. Next up is public comment. I don't see that anybody has signed up for regular public comment. Is that just making sure? All right. All right. So there's no city council or city administration response. And there are no postponed items, so we move on to regular business. First up, our board and committee appointments, mayoral appointments. I have two this evening for the Downtown Development Authority. I'd like to move that we appoint to the Downtown Development Authority Kenny Koza and Daniel McLeish for the terms expiring September 30th, 2025.
Support.
Moved by the chair, supported by Councilmember Chamberlain Kranga, that we appoint Kenny Koza and Daniel McLeish to the Downtown Development Authority, actually reappoint, for the terms expiring September 30th, 2025. Any discussion? The vote, Ms. Dixon.
Mayor Pro Tem Brooks.
Yes.
Councilmember Chamberlain Kranga.
Yes.
Councilmember Erickson Galt.
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton.
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick.
Yes.
Mayor Baker.
Yes.
Councilmember Abraham.
Yes.
Motion carries. We thank Kenny and Dan for their service. Next up are there are no city council appointments this evening. No appointments.
Oh, no.
Yes. Next up are I2 board and committee nominations. I have no mayoral nominations this evening, so I'll turn it over to Mayor Pro Tem Brooks for city council nominations.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to, for the Animal Control Appeal Board, I would like to reappoint Patrick Flock and Al Petrulis to the Animal Control Appeal Board, term expiring September 30th, 2024.
Support.
Moved by Mayor Pro Tem Brooks, supported by Councilmember Abraham, that we renominate Patrick Flock and Al Petrulis to the Animal Control Appeal Board for the terms expiring September 30th, 2024. Any discussion? Vote, Ms. Dixon.
Councilmember Chamberlain Craig.
Yes.
Councilmember Erickson Galt.
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton.
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick.
Yes.
Mayor Baker.
Yes.
Councilmember Abraham.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Brooks.
Yes.
Motion carries.
And for the Parks and Recreation Board, I would like to reappoint Timothy Fulcher to the term expiring July 31st, 2022. Also, the student representative, Ashitha Sahu, to the term expiring July 31st, 2022. Hitesh Patel, to the term expiring September 30th, 2022. And reappoint Michael Brady and John Shepard to the term expiring September 30th, 2024.
Support.
Moved by Mayor Pro Tem Brooks, supported by Councilmember Chamberlain Craig, that the following are nominated to the Parks and Recreation Board. Timothy Fulcher is the Troy School Board of Education rep for the term expiring July 31st, 2022. Akshitha Sahu is the student representative for the term expiring July 31st, 2022. Hitesh Patel for the term expiring September 30th, 2022. And Michael Brady and John Shepard for the terms expiring September 30th, 2024. Any discussion? The vote, Ms. Dixon.
Councilmember Erickson Galt.
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton.
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick.
Yes.
Mayor Baker.
Yes.
Councilmember Abraham.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Brooks.
Yes.
Councilmember Chamberlain Craig.
Yes.
Motion carries.
And that's it.
That's it. All right. There's no closed session request this evening, so we move on to I-4, which is urgent repairs, fire apparatus, and that'll be introduced by Fire Chief Richard Reerster. Hi, Chief.
Mr. Mayor, City Council. As you know, the fire department operates a large fleet of apparatus. Recently, Ladder 4 was taken out of service because it had an engine problem. We have to order a new one to replace it, and while it's being built, Ladder 7, which is our reserve ladder truck, was put in its place. We expect the new ladder truck to be in service sometime around the summer of 2022. Of course, as luck would have it, Ladder 3 also developed some operational problems with the aerial ladder alignment system. This system is critical to the operation of the truck. It lets us know when we get too close to electrical lines. It also lets us know if we get too close to buildings or to the vehicle itself, which would in turn cause damage to the ladder truck and or the building or the people that are inside of it. Both our motor pool and Apollo fire equipment attempted field repairs which were unsuccessful, so the ladder truck was deemed unsafe and was taken back to Apollo, which is the qualified repair center for Sutphen apparatus. Sutphen is the manufacturer of the fire truck, and they're located in Columbus, Ohio. Apollo did their investigation on the truck, and they determined that a swivel was broken on the truck, had to be replaced. They ordered the parts and made the truck safe and usable. Of course, while that truck was broken, another truck broke. Engine 2 developed some engine problems. Our motor pool determined that there was an error code on the engine, and so we contacted Cummins, who's the manufacturer, and they have an outlet in Mount Clemens. The engine was sent to Mount Clemens to be investigated, and it determined that a new turbo unit and an actuator was needed because they had both failed. They also identified several oil leaks within the engine. So my staff scheduled an emergency meeting with the Cummins technicians, spent over an hour going through the engine, and they determined that the oil leaks needed to be repaired as well, along with the turbo and actuator units. So due to the urgent need to have our community protected, our firefighters protected, and our businesses protected, the repairs were authorized for Ladder 2 and for Ladder 3 and for Engine 2. The repairs to Ladder 3 totaled $19,235.50, and the repairs to Engine 2 totaled $23,860.49. Both units are back in service. The funds were available in our equipment maintenance account. The grand total is $43,095.99. And with that, I'm available for questions.
Thank you. All right, I'll move I-4, urgent repairs, fire apparatus, as printed in the agenda packet.
Support.
Moved by the chair, supported by Councilmember Hamilton, that we approve I-4, urgent repairs, fire apparatus, as printed in the agenda. Any discussion? All right, the vote, Ms. Dixon?
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Mayor Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Abraham?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Brooks?
Yes.
Councilmember Chamberlain Craig?
Yes.
Councilmember Erickson Galt?
Yes.
Motion carries. And Chief, since you're here, could you tell us about what fun is coming up on Sunday? Can't hear it from anybody better than you, so.
As long as you've asked.
Yeah.
Sunday is our annual open house. We open all the fire stations, and of course, you and the entire public are welcome to come on in, take a look at our apparatus, take a look at all of the equipment that is funded through the tax dollars, put your hands on it, get a chance to see what goes on in the fire station, talk to the firefighters. There's lots of activities that are planned. So this is our opportunity to meet and greet. Any questions you might have about fire safety, we'll be more than happy to answer those for you. So on behalf of all the members of the department, thank you very much for your support.
Thank you, Chief. We appreciate you and everyone on the force.
Thank you.
That concludes regular business this evening. We move on to the consent agenda. Would anyone like to pull an item from the consent agenda for future discussion and review? Councilmember Abraham.
Mayor, I'd like to move all items on the consent agenda as printed.
Support.
Moved by Councilmember Abraham, supported by Councilmember Hoderick, that we approve all items on the consent agenda as printed in the agenda packet. Any discussion? The vote, Ms. Dixon.
Councilmember Hoderick?
Yes.
Mayor Baker?
Yes.
Councilmember Abraham?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Brooks?
Yes.
Councilmember Chamberlain Craig?
Yes.
Councilmember Erickson Galt?
Yes.
Councilmember Hamilton?
Yes. Motion carries. All items on the consent agenda have been approved this evening. There are no memorandums and future council agenda items to announce this week, and there are no council referrals, so we move on to reports. Would anyone like to comment on the reports this evening? Councilmember Chamberlain Craig.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll just briefly mention M2A, the master plan update. I just want to appreciate city staff for giving that rundown of all of the outreach that was done with the community in getting the survey out there and getting those responses. Also wanted to just really call out that I appreciate the really creative idea of walking those 6 nodes that Planning Commission has decided to really focus on, kind of the hotspot nodes, and kind of really going out there in the community. I believe I read that those will be advertised as public meetings. Is that right? And secondly, then, can we as council go, or do we have an issue then with quorum and we wouldn't be able to attend those?
Madam City Attorney?
I can answer the Open Meetings Act implications here. I think that is exactly the reason why it is noticed as a public meeting, is so that all of the council members can attend, as well as any members of the public that would like to be there. So again, erring on the side of being very conservative, posting it is always a recommended approach.
Wonderful, thank you for that.
Oh, sorry, follow-up question. I hate to do this. Advertised as a public meeting doesn't mean they need to be gavelled in as a meeting?
No, I think certainly I'm sure that it will be noticed as a walking, and it'd be very difficult, I think, to run a meeting out in.
I agree, that's what I was asking. So, okay, very, very good. All right, just making sure. Thank you. Any other comments on the reports? All right, that takes us to council comments. Before we dive into the regular council comments, I just wanted to really quickly ask City Clerk Dixon, we approved something on the consent agenda regarding this upcoming election that we're having, and it was for the additional voting times, essentially. It looks like there'll be a drive-through clerk's office again. I just wondered if you could just speak briefly about some of the actions you're doing for this upcoming city election. Putting you on the spot, I apologize. But I know you can rise to the occasion.
Are you referring specifically to the drive-through or just in general?
If you can do both, fantastic.
Okay.
But I know where ballots have started going out today, I
Yes.
guess is my
So
point.
today we mailed our first batch of ballots out, almost 12,000. We are getting requests still every day. So this is, if you can imagine going back to 2016, the last presidential election before the pandemic, this would have been the same level of absentee ballots that we would have seen at a presidential election of 2016. So it takes, so that is, our staff has been super busy preparing for this. Now that those requests will probably slow down, so we'll get a little bit of a breather to do everything else that we need to do. But those ballots should be hitting mailboxes within sometime this week. And we've employed our tracking system again. So we have the Track My Ballot system will be notifying voters who've requested absentee ballots that their ballots are in the mail and where they're at in the postal system, similar to what we did, well, exactly what we did for the presidential election. Either a text or an email will go to any voter who had provided us with an email or a cell phone number. And also, we are doing a drive-through clerk's office on October 23rd from 8 a.m. to noon. While City Hall is open and we could have everyone in, coming into the building, we had such a positive response from voters for our drive-through services that we decided to keep going with it just for that one event, the morning event. And our staff actually had a great time, running back and forth to cars, getting our steps in, being outside, so there's like a lot of advantages to doing this. So we decided to do it for that one morning. Then we're also open October 30th from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., which are our required hours. We're required to be open 8 hours the weekend before the election. So we've put all of our 8 hours on Saturday. So we'll be open 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. We're also open until 5 p.m. October 29th, which is the Friday. That's also required by state law that we stay open until 5 p.m. on the Friday before the election. And then, as always, people can register to vote the day of the election. And those people that are registering to vote can vote absentee or in person. Polls are open 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. on November 2nd. For anyone that wants to vote in person, we've consolidated our precincts, but they're in the same locations that people are used to going to. It's just that instead of maybe walking into your precinct and seeing two sets of tables, you walk in and you would just see one, and everyone goes to the same table. So same location, same room that you're usually used to going into, just everybody will be going to one table instead of splitting, maybe going to two different tables. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to contact the clerk's office, 248-524-3316, or email clerks@troymi.gov. And we are very prompt with our responses, and we'll answer any questions that anybody has.
Thank you very much. I knew you would do it. So, all right, back to typical regular council comments. Has council comments this evening? Mayor Pro Tem Brooks.
Thank you, Mayor. So this past week, myself and Councilmember Ann Erickson Galt had the opportunity to attend the Michigan Municipal League Conference in Grand Rapids, and it was such an incredible opportunity to meet local elected leaders across the state and to really just see how many states are just getting creative and using a collaborative effort to get things done and really serve their communities. Some of the other topics that were addressed included, they talked about the master plan, which obviously was very relevant to our city, how communities are addressing issues related to affordable housing, creating welcoming and inclusive communities, and also communication building and building trust in local government. So it was really a wonderful, wonderful experience. And one of the best things that I was so honored to do was to support our very own council member, Chamberlain Krienga, as she was elected unanimously as one of the newest MML board members for MML. So it's a wonderful honor for her. And the second thing is that I am working with the Nature Center's Uncorked committee. And as many of you know, Uncorked is the largest fundraiser for the Nature Center. And it's a wonderful event where there are appetizers and wine tasting and just good company. And so Uncorked is still looking for advertisers and sponsors for this event. And the event will take place at the Community Center on November 5th at 6 p.m. And tickets are available online. And I probably will announce it again closer to the event, but we are looking for sponsors at this point. So. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Brooks. Councilmember Chamberlain Krienga.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. So what I wanted to start with, just to remind residents about the frightful 5K. I know usually our mayor puts it in attention, Councilmember Hamilton, but I signed up this weekend, and I was saying that I'm still in retirement from racing, but I did sign up for the 5K, so I will have an honor to run with both of you in the 5K, and my son and husband will do the 1K. So our whole family's doing it. If you have racing flats, size 7.5, let me know, because I'd love to get some racing flats, get out there. And then on a fun note, I wanted to ask a question to city administration or city management I'd heard about these beavers. There were these beaver statues from a number of years ago. And, I wonder, are they still there? Could we put them out on Big Beaver as we run along Big Beaver? Is there some opportunity to have, some fun engagement at some point? I just throw that out there or something. I'm really fascinated. I want to see these beavers. I want to see what they look like.
Mayor?
Yes, City Manager Miller.
To my knowledge, the city does not have the beavers anymore.
Do we know what happened to them?
They were auctioned.
I think
Oh, man. Because I heard there was one outside City Hall, outside of our city council chambers, but I was curious to know where it went. But I guess it got auctioned, so off to Sotheby's. Okay, that answers that question. Second thing on a different topic, but related to recreation, is I wanted to call out a member of the Parks and Recreation staff. I was reading Troy Times, as I'm sure many of us were, and we saw Nikki McEacham from Parks and Recreation was appointed to the state board, the Michigan Recreation and Park Association. And I just wanted to call that out to their board of directors. That's a big deal, and that's wonderful to see. And I was looking through the rec department. I was trying to find something for my son in here, and I ran into a little profile. I love these little profiles that share the staff, that residents get to see, who these staff are running these great programs. And there's a great profile on Nikki, and she says her favorite part is making communities better places to live. And something that maybe I've never shared before, in college, I did a local government class, and I had to do an internship. And it was actually in Parks and Recreation in our local city hall. And it was just a great experience when I wrote my reflection paper about the role of Parks and Recreation and those activities. And I got to run an activity for kids there. And just really building that gel that makes you more than just a city, that really makes you a community. So that's why I just really want to call out our staff there and thank them for all their hard work. And then speaking of boards, again, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Brooks, on the MML. It's a deep, deep honor to be appointed to that board. And I want to thank, of course, Robin Beltramini. She's the forerunner who was appointed to that board. And when I heard the news, initially I was like, no, this is not the right time for it. I reached out to Robin, and Robin was the one who essentially convinced me in many, many ways. And so I just look forward to being a voice for cities. I think about these intractable issues that we have been addressing, especially issues around state preemption, where the state has taken away power from cities to take action. When it comes to the small cell issue that we had around Act 365 out of Lansing, I think that just really emboldened me to want to be a voice for cities, and this is a great opportunity to do that. Secondly, it's also a great opportunity, kind of like Mayor Pro Tem Brooks shared, is when you're in the MML network, and as Representative Koupa shared, it's knowledge sharing. And so it's a great opportunity. I really want to dive in more around issues of community engagement as we seek to, as a council and as our city staff, of course, we're wanting to dive in, and we are really committed to community engagement. So kind of knowledge sharing with other municipalities. Also, placemaking is something that I'm really passionate about weaving into our parks and green space. And so learning more about that, as well as just this increased demand for truly our parks and our green space and financing in those areas. As well as the American Rescue Plan Act dollars, master plan update, all of this. So it's an honor to be with other colleagues that I can learn from. So again, thank you for all your support. I did have a chance to share with all of you one-on-one, and you've all been so supportive. So thank you so much. It's an honor.
Thank you, Councilmember Chamberlain-Crango. Additional council comments. Councilmember Hamilton.
I just want to express my disappointment that Councilmember Chamberlain Kranga joined the Frightful 5K, because the last time we all ran a 5K, Mayor Baker and myself were absolutely destroyed by Councilmember Chamberlain Kranga. So I thought I had a remote chance at being the fastest council member, but now that's going to be nearly impossible. But I'll still try to beat you, Mayor Baker. And I signed up, and my wife and daughter Victoria signed up for the 1K as well. So that'll be fun.
Anyone else? rec.troymi.gov/frightful5k. Maybe I'll just ride in the golf cart this year and beat y'all. So, mayor's prerogative. Anyway, I don't have anything this evening. Chief Rooster talked about the open house, which is this weekend. We're looking forward for that in our community. It's a great opportunity for everybody to get out there and learn about fire safety and also see all of the stations and meet a lot of the firefighters. And it's a good community event. I have no closed session this evening, so we are adjourned.